Have you ever seen those projects where the grout is cracked or the tile is cracked? Well, normally that is because there was not movement in your tile system. And at the very worst, you could have something like this happen. You know that everything moves. You hear your stairs creak when you walk up it. You know that when you go to bed, there's noises. Those aren't ghosts, that's part of your structure moving. The trick is, different building products move at different paces. So therefore, you've got to take into consideration those movements. And with a tile system, that's done through a movement joint. If you don't know me, my name is Craig, and I'm here to guide you through keeping your tile system safe. I'm not going to be able to cover everything about joint sealants and different types of movement joints. You can find that in the TCNA manual under EJ 171. They will give you all of the guidelines, but what I want to do today is give you some basic rules so that your tile system is protected when you install it, or your contractor installs it, or it magically appears. I always tell my team when a client is purchasing grout, they should always purchase a joint sealant. Often this will just be called caulk, but there is a distinct difference between caulk and a joint sealant. Caulk is normally an acrylic base material, but a joint sealant is a silicone based material, and it does a couple of different things. It's about 5 times stronger than your acrylic based caulk. It has more elasticity, so it can stretch more than your typical acrylic caulk. So a silicone based sealant is what you want to use for your tile system. At Tile Bar, we have Lataseal. We love that it is matched to all 40 colors of their catalog. So whatever grout color you've chosen, you can find a matching joint sealant to protect your system. Now that you have your grout and your sealant, let me give you a couple of places to where you definitely want to add that. The first place I always look is, do you have an end corner? This end corner is where 2 planes come together. Most of the time it's a 90-degree corner. Leave the grout out of it and use your joint sealant. The second place that's very common is when you have a floor. Floors can have many different types of movement joints in them, but the most common that every floor has is a perimeter joint. So when your tile is bumping up against your wall, you want to make sure that there's a gap between the wall or trim and your tile. This gap allows for that floor to move independently of the wall. The third common place you'd want to use a joint sealant is when your tile abuts a different type of material. For instance, your floor tile may run into your wood threshold, or your wall tile may butt up against a door casing or window casing or chair rail. These things are going to move at different rates, and you want to protect your tile by putting a flexible sealant between the tile and whatever dissimilar material. If you're getting value from this movement joint information, please click that like and subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss any further tile and stone installation information. Now let's learn how to install a movement joint. All right, now that you have an idea of where you can use your joint sealant, how do you do it? Is it difficult? Well, let me tell you a story. When I was first starting my career, my wife and I bought a house that had an ugly fire surround, and she wanted it replaced. We found some black absolute granite, which was popular at the time, and I installed it around the fireplace. Now, being the bright guy I was, I had a construction management degree, so therefore, I know what I'm doing. I decided instead of grouting it, I was just gonna use a caulk. So I bought some black caulk, and I was just gonna install it in the joints. It was gonna be perfect. It was gonna give it room to move, and I wasn't gonna have to mix up any black grout, which we all know is a nightmare. Well, with all my ignorant wisdom, I didn't realize I had picked up a tube of black silicone. At that point in time in my life, I didn't know the difference between silicone and acrylic caulk, and so I just put it in the caulk gun and I started caulking. And then I tried to clean it up. I figured I'd just get a paper towel, I'd use my finger, clean off that joint. 5 or 10 minutes we'd be done. Well, I didn't realize silicone will stick to anything. Black silicone, you can see it stick to anything. And by the end of that day, I had spent several hours caulking and cleaning and cleaning and caulking, and it was a nightmare. Knowing that, let's talk about how to use the silicone sealant effectively. Every joint sealant bottle is going to be different. So what we want to do is open our bottle and cut off the tip so that the size of the opening at the end of the tip matches the size of your grout joint. Next, you're going to want to clean out the grout joint. It's probably got some dirt in it, maybe some thin set. You want to make sure that it's free and clean so that the sealant can bond to either side of the tile. Now that you've got it all clean and you're ready to go, you may want to use some painter's tape. This is optional, but it'll help with your cleanup, especially if you're not comfortable with silicone. Take your painter's tape and put it on either side of the joint. If you're not comfortable using a caulk gun, or maybe this is your first time, figuring out the flow is a feel thing. You want to kind of get used to it. You want to make sure that you're pushing hard enough that you've got a consistent line of material going into the joint with no gaps. Run that sealant throughout the whole joint and release your caulk gun and lay it down. Now you're ready to dress this joint. You want to give it a nice concave aesthetic. You can do this in a couple of different ways, but let me tell you the trick that I love. I have a spray bottle full of water with a little bit of soap in it. Silicone won't bond to this. So I take that spray bottle and spritz my entire installation. Then spritz my gloved finger so that I can use it to tool the joint. You also could use a spoon or a grout tool. Either way, I like my finger because it's always with me. As you're using your tool or your finger, concave the joint with a constant motion, cleaning off any excess onto a rag or paper towel. Work your way throughout the full joint and then immediately pull off the tape if you used it. You do not want your sealant to dry on top of the tape. Now that you know all about movement joints, check out this next video here. It'll help you for the rest of your installation.